It's the Off Grid Prep Family Podcast.
Hey everybody, it's episode 15 of the Off Grid Prep Family Podcast. Today we're talking about off-grid pumps and what to do with all that extra power on sunny days.
Ooh, I like that.
Yeah, so yesterday we were talking about off-grid water and how to set up your system and lots of options that are off-grid friendly, and we kind of ran out of time to talk about pumps, and pumps are important.
Well, and water in general.
Yeah.
How do I get this water out of my tanks and use it effectively?
Yeah. Without water, you're just camping. It's temporary.
Yeah.
So we'll start out with what we do, and then we'll give you some options for other sort of circumstances.
Yeah.
As we talked about yesterday, we live off rainwater mostly.
We do.
And so
now entirely.
Yeah.
For a few years now, we haven't had to supplement with anything.
Mm-hmm. And so out of those tanks, we have pumps. We have 2 water rooms because redundancy is everything off-grid, and we have 2 pumps.
Well, just to remind everyone, we built our house, we designed our house to maximize roof square footage for the sole purpose of harvesting rainwater.
Yeah.
We didn't know how the insulative value is going to work out.
Well, and also straw bale is hard to do 2 stories, so you're better to just go bigger.
Yeah, it is.
Straw bale is a very cheap way to build if you live somewhere where they grow stuff.
Yeah, and you have the land to expand. So we have 2 water rooms. I don't know how many thousands of gallons off the top of my head. 2250. No, I knew I remembered it. So that's how many gallons of water we have, and it's about 2 months worth of water if we don't get any rain, which is pretty rare where we are. We've pushed it to the limit. Usually in June and then again in August we get kind of close. September, but the rain always comes.
Yeah, and our overflow goes into the pool. So worst case, we could use the pool water, or at least use it to flush toilets and stuff.
We had to pump out of the pool last year once. Yeah. We haven't had to do that this year.
But it's nice to have that extra, and
it is,
and it keeps you cool in the summer, so you have to run less air conditioning.
And we maintain that pool. We make sure we put bleach into it, just enough to keep algae from growing.
We clean it.
We clean it.
Flocked, and
we use flocculant, and so it's not a big deal.
And it has like a pump that circulates the water up over the slide constantly, so it's like it's not stagnant mosquito-filled water.
That's actually. That should be part of this episode.
Oh yeah, that pool pump.
So I'll quickly describe the pool pump. I recently researched, and I shared with you how pool pumps work, and we were shocked. In-ground pool pump uses like 1,800 watts of power.
24/7.
Continuously.
Yeah.
It's like running in a hot tub too.
Yeah.
You know what? That doesn't include the heater element.
Right.
That's just the pump to move water.
We don't live in a very hot climate. We live in like a fluctuating climate. Like it gets very cold here in the winter and very cold in the summer. But
it does get up to we hit
imagine
nearly 40 Celsius.
But I can't imagine ever needing a heated pool.
No,
because if it's hot enough out that you want to get in the pool, why would you want warm water?
Exactly. I don't get that.
Even in August here, sometimes it's like, ooh, this water is a little like warm. Like it's not cooling you off.
Maybe it's one of those societal things where it's like, well, you have a pool, you're gonna need a pool heater,
right?
And everybody's like, oh, okay, I guess I need a pool heater,
right?
And nobody questions it. 1,800 watts continuously is obscene.
Speaking of power, thank you to our first sponsor today, EMP Shield. They'll keep your exorbitant pool pump running.
Yeah,
if that's what you decide to plug it into.
Exorbitant.
If that's what your priorities are.
I'm gonna stay with obscene.
Okay. An EMP shield will protect any device from an EMP, a coronal mass ejection, or a lightning strike. And they have units for your vehicles, for your generators, or for your whole house. And if you use code OGPF, you get $50 off any unit, which is a big deal because they're not really all that expensive.
No.
Especially when you consider what they're protecting.
Yeah. The freezer.
Yeah.
$3,000 worth of meat.
Yeah, that's a small price to pay. One little blip.
And it's all gone.
So moving on, what kind of pump do we use in our water rooms to power the water in our house?
Well, let me finish with the pool. right?
Oh, I thought you were done. Sorry.
No. So the so pool pumps are obscene.
Mm-hmm.
pornographic.
Yes.
Horrible things.
I hate that word, but go
Me
on.
too. It denotes a horror
Okay.
in a situation. I use a hydronic circulating pump. So this
like,
is a
So like in-floor heating.
in-floor heating.
Okay.
It's a permanent magnet, really efficient design. They've been developed. Actually, the one we purchased, it was a off-brand pump. But when I went to download the manual for our pump, our off-brand hydronic pump, it sent me a Grundfos manual.
Okay.
So a brand name pump worth 8 times the price.
Do you want me to find that, please?
No, it's fine.
Okay.
So any hydronic circulating pump, they're 110 volt AC, and they use at most 100 watts.
Okay.
So not 1,800 watts like a pool
Yeah.
pump. 100
watts is a lot if you don't have any power. But if you've got enough power, especially in the summer
Yeah.
when you're running your pool, you've got that.
You can do that with
Yeah.
a small system. So I've got a 100 watt pump, and you might be able to hear it in the background.
I think they can hear the pool sometimes.
So
yeah.
we plumbed it so that there's 2 intakes in the bottom of the pool. We used 1-inch black poly water well line to connect these 2 intakes, and we ran it up and piped it so that it spouts a water fountain out of the slide. And the hydronic pump, the only downside of the hydronic pump is that you need to prime it using your garden hose.
Right.
So there's a bit of it takes about 3 minutes, maybe 2-3 minutes.
Yeah.
You put the hose in it, and that's a whole thing. But it's really not a big deal once we figured it out. Once it's primed, it just runs.
Yeah. It's great.
It's
and
great.
it blocks out any, like, the road is a long way away. But
We're about a kilometer from the road.
Once you get used to the quiet, sometimes the road is annoying.
Yeah, I hadn't thought of that.
Yeah, it's like
your senses are heightened.
Yeah, totally.
Totally.
And so it drowns that out, and so
Yeah.
you have that like constant sound of water bubbling outside your window, especially at night. It's really nice.
So for a pool, a standard hydronic
Yeah,
pump.
it's more than enough, and it just keeps it flowing.
It keeps it flowing. Keeps
And we do sometimes. We have a filter, an inline filter
Yeah.
that'll go with that.
Yeah.
We don't use it right now
Very
because
rarely.
the water.
I usually just end up doing the flocculant pump
Yeah.
out, clean
Yeah.
out thing
So as far as in the house,
in the house.
what powers the water in our house?
Well, there are several options. If you go to that other tab, we found this site today that really lists the options. And
Oh yeah, Tiny Living Life.
If
Thank
you have
Tiny Living Life,
Tiny Living Life, great
really good resource.
outlay of the pumps here. So they start with a little giant pump. It's a downhole in-well pump if you have a well, which
Yeah.
we don't. And it's about $400 on Amazon. It'll do about 150 feet of well depth.
Yeah.
They move on to a Hallmark Industries pump, which will do about a 40-foot well to a 100-foot well. Then they lay out a couple of jet pump options, transfer pump, and then finally a hydrant. So
Like the one that you pump when you're camping.
yeah, so if you go to tinylivinglife.com, they have a really great page with all the specs I'm not going to list here.
On water pumps, yeah. They
Yeah.
have some really good options there.
Now, what they don't list, because they don't look at this from an electrical engineering standpoint, which you have to off the grid often, is how much power these things use.
Right.
And you won't find that. It says
Yeah.
the voltage, but it doesn't say how much current or wattage. And what we've found with all the downhole pumps and all of the jet pumps is you're looking at about 1,000 watts.
Yeah.
Every time this thing runs, it's 1,000, maybe 1,200 watts.
So if you have a well and that's your primary water source, would the recommendation be to set up that well pump so that it pumps into a cistern every time it's sunny?
You definitely want a cistern. You can have just like, I guess our tanks are classed, they're technically above ground cisterns. So if you have a downhole pump and you have to get that water out of the ground, which takes an enormous amount of electricity, pump it into a cistern when the sun is shining, and then you can do what we do,
Right.
which is we use a pressure diaphragm pump. This is basically your classic RV pump.
Right. Like
It makes that humming noise.
if you've been on a boat, that
boat
sound. Yeah.
Exactly. It makes a humming noise. And there have been many attempts over the years to get boat pumps on variable drives so they're quieter, but nothing has gone mainstream yet. I looked into it a couple years ago.
So we put ours in an insulated box.
We put it in an insulated box.
You know what I've been thinking would be really good is a styrofoam cooler.
Yeah.
I just haven't seen one of those lately.
Well, the reason we use this diaphragm pump is purely through experimentation, trying to find a pump that didn't use a lot of power but lasted a long time. I just looked up this page on Amazon. The last time we bought a replacement pump, so not the pump we're currently running on,
but our spare.
Our spare,
because we always keep backups,
was 2.5 years ago.
Okay.
So our current pump has got to be 3 years old, 3.5.
Yeah.
The price, now a well pump, a jet pump, $400. Tiny. The other website listed some options, but you could spend easily $1,000, $2,000 on a well pump. When we moved in here, we had that one from Princess Auto, that jet pump on a tank, and I think we paid $900 something for it. Which, of course, now with inflation is probably doubled.
Yeah, I don't
honestly.
even want to know how much that would be now.
Anyway, I paid $110, I remember, for this pump I'm looking at on Amazon, this diaphragm pump. Today it's $120. So the price hasn't changed. The reason we use this pump, despite a little bit of noise, that humming sound, is it only uses about an amp. It only uses this about the same as the hydraulic pump.
And it only runs when you flush the toilet or run the shower.
Yeah, I've got it hooked up just like you'd plumb any water well based system is with pressure tanks in the plumbing system, so there is a pressure buffer.
Right, so you can wash your hands and do a little thing.
Exactly.
It doesn't kick on immediately.
On RVs, especially older RVs, the moment you turn that tap on, that the diaphragm pump starts going.
And that's hard on the pump too.
It is hard on the pump, yeah. So these pumps are great. I'm just remembering now, I did have to modify the pump electrically. I forgot about this. So there's this universal design to this pump. I'm glad I get to share this. Every one of these things comes with a little pressure switch on the bell end of it, the nose end, whatever you want to call it. And it's a little pressure switch which tells the pump when to turn on. But that's based on the pressure of the system. And every one of these, I think I've been through 4 different brands. They're all the same. They clearly all come from the same factory. This is a 120 volt AC pump. The pressure switch is rated for 24 volts DC.
Like they just never...
They never fixed it. They basically loaded a warehouse with these things and have been selling them full of the wrong switch. So the first 3 I burnt through because they would do this weird click, 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 click thing. It was this pressure switch turning on and off because it didn't know what the hell it was doing.
So if your pump does that, now you know...
You have to change it out, and you have to put in your own pressure switch. I use a standard pressure switch from the hardware.
Okay.
Which you use in normal water well systems.
So you go to the hardware store and you ask them for...
a well pump pressure switch.
Okay.
Yeah,
and it costs...
$30, $40.
Okay.
But you have to learn a little bit about electrical circuits. It's really easy. You have to cut out the switch. The wires are there. I'm not going to go into that in this episode. That's a whole other thing about talking about my modified systems.
Yeah.
And anyway, this pump now has been running for us for 3.5 years. It's brilliant. Before I figured out the pressure switch problem on the pump, I think I went through 4 or 5 of the things.
Yeah, they were always on warranty, but it's
on warranty. Well, we were building the new house at the time, so I was like, I'm not going to figure this out right now. I'm just going to get a new one. Yeah. Eventually, once we settled in, as always, I said I'm going to solve this problem. Yeah. So it was a lot of troubleshooting, but I did get to the bottom of it.
We'll do a reel or a YouTube on that. So make sure you're following us on YouTube and Instagram because a little bit of finicking is a small price to pay to have a pump that'll run all the time off grid and not cause you any grief.
Well, when you're going off the grid, you're going to run into this all the time. We're going to call them established systems and gear. It's just to make money. Yeah. Like it's not efficient.
They're
it's not
any
cost
better,
effective. They're no better.
Brand. You can't trust the brand name. So the one that we use, is that on our site? On our
no, actually,
gear?
But we will. We'll put it on the off-grid gear page.
Okay.
Yeah.
with the water stuff.
And there are a few different variations. As
Yeah.
I said, I think they just loaded up a warehouse with these things years ago, and they've been selling them under different brands ever since.
Yeah, you can probably get them from RV stores too, but I'd imagine they're about twice the price.
Oh yeah, easily.
And that's another one of those things that you really have to keep spare of.
You do.
Because if you're down, you're down.
Yeah. And this is a pump that needs almost no priming. Jet pumps, water well pumps don't, because you're sinking them into the water. But jet pumps need an enormous amount of priming. We learned that the hard way.
Yeah.
This pump here, I put it 4 feet, like it's at the top of the tank, and it primes in about 5-10 seconds. The way the diaphragm, like the mechanical device works, it just sucks the water up.
Great. Okay, another option for wells is some people might be really lucky and have a well that has pressure on it. You know, the kind that you have to hold back.
They used to call those flow wells when
Yeah.
we lived in the dry areas.
Yeah.
These wells would just flow. It was
Just
like a gravity thing.
"Whoa."
Like you tap into a spring, but like under the spring.
Yeah.
They'd have to put
And so,
pressurized caps on
Is
them.
that something that if you're looking for off-grid property and it has a well like that, that's like a buy it now
Holy
situation?
grail. Yeah.
Yeah.
Couldn't even imagine.
And they need like a special well cap to hold back the pressure.
They do.
correct?
Yeah.
I was listening to Prepping 2.0 and they were talking about how the well that's beside their greenhouse, which is why they put their greenhouse there, they found out that it doesn't have the special cap on it, and because of the aluminum shortage or something, it's been months and months and months and nobody can get it for them, so they have no
cap?
water at their greenhouse.
That's like an $8
I
item.
know. I
There's
know.
an aluminum
I
shortage?
feel like I should go to like
What?
a Canadian store and just mail them one.
Wait,
So-
can I, just for a second,
Yeah,
I didn't know this. There's an
I
aluminum,
guess so.
sorry, an aluminium shortage?
Yes.
That's
For
another thing I
American
have is
things.
the English mispronunciation of
I
words.
think it's an American thing.
We used to live in...
Yeah, they dumped all their tea in the ocean and they started calling it aluminum.
That's just the most
Aluminum.
knuckle-dragging thing.
Anyways,
in
A pressurized well.
Yeah, but
Get one.
in France, they call it Calais, right? It's where the you go from Dover to Calais.
Yeah. And in Maine, you go to Callus.
Callus. They
Yeah.
called it Callus.
Yeah.
And I was like, where's the U?
Yeah.
What are you talking about, Callus?
Calais.
Calais. And there are many words like that. It's like a English defiance of the proper pronunciation. Drives me crazy. Can we just be intelligent?
No. We have to do things
Let's
different.
just be intelligent.
Would you like to do my second sponsor before we
Sure.
move on?
Yeah.
Okay.
Thrive Life Foods.
Hello, Thrive Life.
You know, unfortunately, we haven't had the chance to use Thrive Life for a while because our garden's been so good.
Yeah, we
just
don't
haven't-
have to use
No.
the backup food, which is
very
a
lucky.
good place to be.
We're
by-
not lucky. We've worked our butts
Yeah,
off.
it's not luck.
It's luck. It's
Yeah.
Anyway,
Where preparation meets opportunity.
There you go.
Yeah.
Thrive Life Foods. They're fantastic. They're American-made, non-GMO, very high-quality stuff.
They're so picky that they've stopped selling things in the last couple of years because they couldn't find anything up to their standards. And I
Nice.
don't know many companies who would do that.
No.
For example, I really like their bacon TVP.
Oh, it was
It was one of
good.
my favorite things
They don't
ever.
do that anymore?
No, because they couldn't find non-GMO TVP.
Soy.
Yeah.
Oh, it's a
I
shame.
know, because I love that stuff.
We did their bacon TVP, and then we did Bob's Red Mill. And
Oh, it's not.
I don't even know
the same. What is that?
it was horrible.
It's not the same thing.
Yeah.
Anyways, they
not a
don't
fan.
have that anymore.
Yeah.
But they have a lot of other stuff that's not out of stock. And if you sign up as an affiliate, I wouldn't recommend doing it to make money, but you do get a day advance notice when they get new stock in.
Yeah.
And then these times, we could all use advance notice.
You find the referral code on our friends and affiliates page. You get a 15% discount and
Sweet.
off your first order. Yeah.
Yum.
It's good stuff.
Freeze-dried strawberries. Yum, yum, yum. Alright, so we're maybe done talking about wells. The other option that we've seen online that we haven't tried, because we just haven't needed to, is using a ram pump. Because it doesn't use electricity.
From what I can tell, if anybody here technical is listening about ram pumps, it looks like it's a very crude version of a supercharger. A supercharger was invented for airplanes. It's a belt-driven piston device it forces air into the engine at high altitudes. When airplanes go up really high, especially early airplanes, they couldn't suck air in fast enough, so they had to push the air in. Okay. So the ram pump, it uses a little bit of flowing water. So you put it in a flowing stream or something. You channel it through a pipe, and it gets going like a momentum device. It's not perpetual. It does take some of that water force. But
if you have a flowing creek...
Yeah, on the downstroke, it pushes the water through the outlet pipe with more force than just leaving the pipe flowing on its own.
So if you want to see one of those, we really like Wrangler Star on YouTube. He's been around forever. I think we've been following his stuff for like 15 years or so.
Oh, I didn't know.
Yeah. And so he's got a bunch of models, and he's kind of perfected it over the years. If you have a creek, you have water.
I'm sure people have come up with turbine methods that we haven't found yet.
Yeah. So that's our water pump. Do you want to talk about what do you do with your extra power on sunny days? I know most people who don't live off-grid don't realize that's a problem.
It can be a problem. Your batteries charge up, and then your solar panels just sit idle.
It's 11 o'clock in the morning. Everything's charging.
Yeah, one at the most.
Everything's done, and you're like, what can I use this power for? So
what we did was we found a used hot water tank. And there was a thing online recently about this, was it Finnish?
I don't know.
In Finland, these people did a sand tank.
Oh, yeah,
right?
Maybe we'll do sand, but right now we just heat water.
We just heat water because it's easy. And our water heater, this water heating tank, it comes with big, like 5,000 watt elements. This thing uses an enormous amount of power because it's designed to heat water up really quickly. So we don't care about that because we have a propane water. It's an on-demand heater. So what I did is put this water heater in. I plumbed it in line to kind of pre-feed the propane heater.
So it like preheats the water.
If there's no heat in it, it's like cold water going in. It doesn't matter. But if I've got extra sun, which we often do, especially this time of year, I designed the system and I took out those old AC elements, and I went on Amazon and I found a 48 volt DC 1000 watt element. There's several variations. There's 24 volt DC, and they look the same, and they have the same pipe threads. And so I screwed out the old elements, I screwed in the new ones, and there's a relay, and basically when the voltage is high enough and the battery's charged, the brain that I put in our house will turn on that electric water heating element.
So ours is automatic because you're a geek. But you could...
I got shit to do. Sorry.
You could just do it manually.
You just use a circuit breaker.
You could look at the sky and be like, wow, that's sunny.
And then go look at your screen and say, hey, my batteries are charged. And you can turn the circuit breaker on.
But then you would have
just
to remember.
That's why I did it. It wasn't actually because I have stuff to do.
It's because you have many
constantly forgot. Constantly forgot. And then I have to run a generator.
Yes.
It was ridiculous.
Nobody wants a generator fired hot water.
So I automate things.
We automate everything. That's sort of what we do lately is once you're set up in your off-grid place.
It's the levels.
We're trying to make it so that everything is as easy as possible.
Levels, Jerry.
Levels. And we try to make it so that we can live here until we're old. So every year it should get easier. Scenario. Every year, this is best case scenario.
I don't plan on getting old anytime soon. But someday.
For example, every year our garden's a little more weed free. We use the geotextile fabric and so we have less weeding, and we use systems that make our life easier.
Yeah, the gray water system with the sump pump.
Just automate it.
And this is off the shelf stuff used in a different way.
And so every year it's a little less work and it's a little less physical demanding and a little less infrastructure.
Yeah.
We're putting it in now so that 10, 20, 40 years from now.
But I'm not spending 40 grand on each thing.
Yeah.
I'm spending hundreds of dollars.
Yeah, you're finding those little pinchy points.
Getting the same results.
And trying to make them easier.
This is what you have to do.
Yeah. So we use the electric hot water heater when we have extra power.
Yep.
I also will use the Instant Pot when we have extra power.
Definitely.
Especially in the fall when we've got chickens and things coming in from outside. what we like to do is Instapot them 2 at a time, and we pick off the meat, and we throw them in the freezer in a Ziploc bag,
Flat pack. Yep.
And then we're still pulling them out now, and we have pre-shredded barbecue chicken salad, chicken. We like to do the chicken pizza crust. We did
That's what we had tonight. It was great.
Epic.
It was really good.
So good. It's always
chicken,
so good.
Eggs, which, as I say that out loud,
chicken and eggs. That's an abomination.
An abomination. I was going to say unholy. But, so chicken and eggs mixed up
with some mozzarella
with some cheese makes a beautiful
and
pizza
some like
crust.
Italian seasoning.
Some garlic.
Yeah.
Fresh garden oregano.
So good, and it all comes from here.
Yeah.
That's epic.
And wherever you live, I'm sure you'll come up with really cool ingredients.
Yeah, yeah.
If you pick an herb from your garden and you say to yourself, "This smells amazing,"
just put it in your food.
Eat it. That's the herb you want. I don't even care what it is.
It has magical things in it that you probably need.
That's where the best recipes come from.
If you think that your body thinks that's tasty, it's probably something you're missing.
It's like classical French food. The ingredients in classical French food are horrific. Snails.
Sometimes they don't make any sense going together, too.
Slug with a shell and a frog's leg?
It's a non-homeless slug.
Kill it with fire. However, because the French were starving at that period in time, not that long ago, they made a bunch of amazing, amazing food.
Delicious snails.
Yep.
So, Instapot, pressure cooker. Also, you could run an electric toaster oven during the day.
Easily, yep.
You can run an electric pressure canner during the day. And, like we do, you could run air conditioning while the sun is shining.
Yes, you can.
You need to run air conditioning because the sun is shining.
Yep.
It's like one of those, I can't get experience because I don't have a job.
It's minus 30 or it's plus 30.
Yes. So those are my ideas for what to do when you have extra power. Do you have anything else to add to that?
No, that's all we do. I'm sure there are many options. I've seen recently a new emerging industry on thermal storage.
Right.
But that doesn't really work in the summer. That only works in the winter. We do have days in the winter with extra power.
We do. There are many sunny days.
Especially, as we mentioned.
Well, and on the prairies, you get a lot of those big, long, sunny days in the winter.
Yeah.
And if you've got your panels aimed right, you get a lot of power in the winter.
And that's what we mentioned earlier. We keep our panels at winter angle because that way the snow it's the best chance of the snow falling off. It doesn't always fall off.
It falls off eventually.
I can't believe that. That was such a shock to me last year when we got that new array put up, or the year before, I guess. And the snow, we had one of those blustery snowstorms, and we walked out the next morning, and the snow was still stuck
to
like nearly perfectly vertical solar panels.
Like 6 inches thick snow.
Yeah. Now, that said, the whole wall of the building was also covered in snow, but it was like, really? Even then it doesn't slide off? It was heartbreaking. It did fall off, but
car brush.
That was a generator day.
Car brush on an extension pole.
Yeah.
All right. Well, we're actually on time today. Thanks for listening, everybody. That's amazing.
Nice.
If you could share this podcast with a friend,
yes,
we would really appreciate it. It helps us get the show out to more people who might find it useful.
Yep.
And if you could give us a 5-star review, I would really love that. I read every single one of them. Thank you very much.
So we're going to leave you with the quote of the day, which I love. If you chop your own wood, it will warm you twice. That's from Henry Ford.
Nice.
Great quote.
Thanks for listening, everybody. Have a nice weekend.